Everyone, we're live. No real plan for the stream. I'm just going to be kind of hopping around some Canadian news clips. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Marcia McMillan. Thanks for joining us this morning on CTV News Channel. We begin in Alberta, where Premier Danielle Smith says her government will hold back funding for new judicial appointments if Ottawa doesn't give the province more say on who is picked. In a letter to the Prime Minister, Smith says the appointment process for judges needs reform. She wants the province to be consulted on future appointments to Alberta's Court of King's Bench, the Alberta Court of Appeal, and
I don't really care about this story. I'm going to move forward a little bit.
Aimed at increasing collaboration on critical minerals. Anand and her international counterparts will be discussing the Trump administration's push to lessen global reliance on China when it comes to critical minerals. Monday, President Trump announced the creation of a strategic reserve of rare earth elements to help shield auto and electronics manufacturers from any supply chain disruptions. Turning now to the Capitol on this Wednesday morning as Parliament is back in session, one of the top priorities of the government is passing its new GST credit. While cost of living remains a major concern, new data from Nanos is showing us what other issues are topping the list for Canadians. With more, let's bring in CTV's Jeremy Sharon. He's in the Ottawa Bureau. Good morning to you, Jeremy. So Nick Nanos is out with some new information.
This will be interesting, actually. Hello, William. How are you doing today?
Today for CTV, gauging the opinions of Canadians on priorities for the federal government in this new year. What does it reveal?
Yeah, look, Marcia, this data from Nanos Research really putting a clear lens on what Canadians are most prioritizing or what they want to see most the government prioritizing in this parliamentary session. And the numbers are interesting and tell a few different pictures. Unsurprisingly, I think, the rising cost of living is the #1 priority among respondents to the survey. And Canadians who believe...
I think you're the first person to chat from Kick that's not a robot. So shout out to Luna. I think I have 6 followers on Kick, maybe.
That should be the #1 priority. That has increased from September.
Obviously, but the media is going to keep talking about Trump.
September to December. 26% of respondents just over that say that is the #1 priority, or they believe that should be the #1 priority. That's up 21% from September. #2 on that list, jobs.
That's up 21 or maybe from 21.
Economy. 18.4% of respondents believe that should be the government's #1 priority. That's up from 16% in September. And falling a little bit in terms of what Canadians believe should be a #1 issue or a priority issue is trade negotiations with the U.S. 17% of respondents believed that should be a priority for the government. That's down from 21% from the last time this question was asked in September. Now, important to note that despite the fact that percentage-wise, trade negotiations with the U.S. is down a little bit.
Maybe Luna is also a robot. I craft custom logos. Okay, cool.
We're still seeing that.
That's cool. If you're not a robot, that is cool. Like, I mean, I don't need that right now, but that's cool.
Be one of the top priorities for Canadians for about a year now. Just goes to show, while Canadians are concerned, of course, about ongoing negotiation with the U.S., more of a priority right now are, of course, jobs in the economy, and chief among all of those concerns is the rising cost of living. So, it is an interesting, it's interesting to look at how Canadians are feeling. And while the government has been clear, they're looking at increasing partnerships with other countries in the face of these trade negotiations with the U.S. Canadians would like to see a priority on more domestic issues. There you see the regional breakdown of that #1 issue per province. 38.1% in the Atlantic provinces. So a massive number of respondents feel that is the #1 issue. Clearly, people are concerned right now of domestic issues here.
And some people...
Look, this has obviously been true for a long time, but there's so many distractions. Like, obviously, the latest distraction is Trump. But this has obviously been true for a long time in Canada, that people can't afford to live.
People are concerned right now of domestic issues here.
And some people would argue all of these things are tied together. Now, Here's another interesting topic that Nanos looked at, and that is floor crossing. So what do Canadians think, which we have seen a few times lately, what do Canadians think should happen if an MP decides that they want to change political stripes?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, Marcia. Look, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not MPs should be allowed to cross the floor, as we've seen happen now.
They obviously shouldn't. It's so stupid.
Chris D'Entremont, Michael Ma, two Conservative MPs that crossed the floor to join the Liberal Party, the governing Liberal Party, of course. And there has been a lot made of whether or not that should even be allowed. Of course, it is allowed in our democratic system. It is something that MPs...
How's that democracy? How can you even call that a democratic system? You can just leave to the other party? How's that representing your constituents?
Are well within their right to do, but there are questions about whether or not that should be the case and whether changes should be made to not allow that. And so this survey from Nanos Research for CTV asked Canadians how they felt about floor crossers and what options they should have or what the course should be for them if they wanted to leave one party and join another. And interestingly, Canadians are pretty much split across the board. 33%, so a third.
Of course, this is the Canadian way, just wishy-washy.
Believe they should have to resign and seek a new mandate through a special by-election. Another third, 31% specifically, say they should have to sit as an independent until the next election. And then 32% say things should be, as they are now, and you should be allowed to do so.
How can you think that's fair? Is that just liberals that are happy that it happened this time because they benefited from it?
So Canadians pretty much split across the board, Marcia, interestingly enough, about how MPs should have to move forward if they choose to cross the floor. Of course, again, important to remind everyone, it is allowed as it stands to cross the floor and join another party. But at least 2/3 of Canadians believe that should not be the case, that it should be, there should be a different avenue, whether it be sitting as an independent or triggering an immediate by-election. 2/3 of Canadians feel that should not be the case.
Jeremy, thanks for all that. We'll check in with you later.
It shouldn't be. It's so crazy. Okay, I'm going to go to question period, and I just have to use the washroom here.
To start by expressing my respect to Prime Minister Harper, who is actually led the thought process for both the opposition leader and the leader of the government. I'd like to hear the Prime Minister's understanding, given his long notions of history, regarding what happened in Mirabel when the airport was built there and the expropriation of so many people. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I wish to express my respect to the great Prime Minister that is in the gallery. It would be my honor to unveil his portrait in a few hours. Mr. Speaker, this high-speed rail line is a major national project. It will be a national project that will be established in close cooperation with the citizens in Quebec, in Ontario. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. I understand, Mr. Speaker, that that's the extent of what the Prime Minister knows about the trauma that was caused by the expropriation in Mirabel. And now he wants to do that all over again today. Does he believe that expropriating people without consent, by email, expropriation with no impact assessments, with no true consultation, are going to in some way reduce the trauma experienced by the people in Mirabel and the Laurentides region? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are cooperating closely with the constituents in Mirabel, in Quebec, and in Ontario to have a small corridor, not a huge airport, for one project that will create over 50,000 jobs, good jobs, here in Canada. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. I don't know any agricultural producer who thinks that his or her business is too small to be worthy of respect. You can suspend rules, laws, parliamentary privileges, suspend environmental consultations, suspend rules relating to expropriation. Is that not all evidence that C5 and C15 are heartless bills? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the process will be respectful and transparent. It will be inclusive. But the question he is asking actually, is the member for Chambly in favor or against the high-speed rail? In favor of the future of Quebec, for or against the future of Canada?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the food crisis is the worst problem in Canada for families. There are single mothers who are not even sure they'll be able to pay their bills. I asked the Prime Minister for his theory because if he's unable to diagnose the cause of inflation, of the soaring prices, he cannot find a solution. The Bank of Canada is saying that 2/3 of the increases are due to domestic issues. I'm going to give him another opportunity as a great economist to explain what is the cause for the worst food inflation in Canada. The Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition knows full well that we have taken measures that will support families, and that is why he agreed with our request to expedite the process for the passage of Bill C-19, which will deliver, Mr. Speaker, no less than $1,800 to Canadians, to Canadian families, precisely to address issues with respect to affordability and groceries.
There's another illusion. It will be $10 a week at most for a family. Most Canadians will get nothing at all. $10 a week for $300 of grocery weekly for a family, Mr. Speaker. The question was, why is it that Canada has the worst inflation in food prices in the G7? The Prime Minister claimed it was our low dollar under his leadership. His leadership, he claimed that he was going to be so good with money and so good with protecting the loonie. Why is it that he has stood in the House of Commons and admitted that his leadership has tanked our dollar and raised the grocery prices?
Hello, PBE. Hello. Yes, it is great. I'm a pro-Trump Republican. Hello, William. Yeah, we talked already. I'm pro-Trump as well. I think Trump is great. Is Carney speaking Quebec French? Probably. Carney doesn't speak very good French, though.
Speaker, I don't know, but the math I have is 1,800 divided by 52 is a lot more than $10 a week, Mr. Speaker. But that's why the Leader of the Opposition knows very well that this is substantial assistance for Canadians who are experiencing affordability issues. That's why he bent over when we asked him to accelerate and pass C-19 and make sure that we can get that aid to Canadians right away.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, if the Prime Minister is going to dodge questions, you better find someone better than that.
Okay, this video, now you can probably still see it. This video here is titled, "Has Poilievre dropped his attack dog persona?" Pretty weird, but we'll see what they say.
Alberta Primetime with Michael Higgins.
Welcome to Alberta Primetime. Ahead tonight, what restored access to the Chinese market will mean for the cattle industry. But first, from Pierre Poilievre's lock on leadership to the Premier addressing federal Conservatives and opposition demands for action on health care in our province. Let's kick off the program with tonight's politics panel, and joining us this evening, Donna Kennedy-Glantz, former MLA and cabinet minister, now a columnist with the National Post, and Dwayne Bratt, Mount Royal University political scientist. Good evening to you both, and let's begin with an offer of collaboration.
To discuss how Parliament can quickly reverse the food price crisis the crime crisis, and the dependency crisis Liberals have caused. I'll bring practical solutions and an openness to hear other ideas and work together to fast-track results.
Pierre Poilievre on reaching out to the Prime Minister for an urgent meeting in the wake of the Conservative Party's National Convention in Calgary over the weekend, where he earned 87.4% of the vote in a leadership review, cementing Poilievre's control over the party. Okay, Donald, more likable Pierre Poilievre? Did he present a persona that could turn the page, connect with a broader range of Canadian voters?
Oh, it sure seems like a charm offensive in action here. He has definitely changed the tone of his messaging. He's smiling all the time, and the overture to Carney is undeniably something that Carney's going to have to respond to. I am here. Steal my ideas, steal our policy ideas. We're willing to be at the table with you, working with you collaboratively. It's time. It's a crisis. We need to double down. And if there is an election called in the short term, he's prepared the ground for that. So very wise, very astute, and frankly, pretty believable. It seems quite genuine. The other strategy didn't work.
Dwayne, a more united Conservative Party coming out of this convention? How much do you see the outcome of the leadership review moving the party beyond that window of uncertainty around
of some of the most recent numbers? Pierre Poilievre may have secured the support of Conservative delegates this past weekend, but recent federal polling shows his party has some work to do when it comes to winning over most Canadians. This is a snapshot of some of the most recent numbers. All of these firms have the Liberals up, with the highest being Main Street, which has the Liberals at +15, with decided and leading voters. Leger and Liaison have the Liberals up 9 and up 8. Nanos and Abacus both have the Liberals at +4. And the Angus Reid Institute has the Liberals up 3. ECOS also has the Liberals up 14. Now, these rising Liberal fortunes may have played a role in helping recruit some high-profile candidates to run for the party. Yesterday, longtime MP and former cabinet minister Bill Blair resigned from his Scarborough Southwest seat to have become the High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. And today, the Liberals announced that the Ontario NDP deputy leader will run in Blair's former seat. Dolly Begum was, until today, the Ontario NDP MPP for Scarborough Southwest. And the dominoes keep falling. Just hours after that announcement, Liberal MP Nathaniel Erskine-Smith said he will seek the Ontario Liberal Party's nomination to run in Begum's former riding. And while he says he plans to support the Prime Minister in the meantime, this could mean another by-election on the 2026 calendar. We're going to start there with the power panel. There's going to be a quiz later in the segment. Supriya Dwivedi was an advisor to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Nathan Cullen is a former NDP MP and BC NDP minister, so maybe the Liberals will poach him next. Emily Nicholas, a columnist for Le Devoir. And here with me in the studio is Lisa Ray. She is a former Conservative cabinet minister. It's good to see you all. I do just want to start with some of the reaction of this new Liberal candidate who, as of this morning, was the Ontario New Democrat deputy leader. Here's how the federal NDP interim leader, Don Davies, reacted to this move.
You know, when Canadians see politicians betray the values and policies that they claim to believe in, I think it damages our democracy and it breeds cynicism in our politics. I'll leave it to Ms. Begum to explain to the people of Scarborough Southwest why she's abandoning the progressive policies she claimed to believe in to run for a party that is clearly governing like a Conservative party.
Okay, so Nathan Cullen, I want to start with you on that. I mean, Ms. Begum is resigning from the party and resigning her seat to join another party and run in a seat at another level of government. Is it really a cynical floor crossing, or someone quitting one job to seek a new job? How do you view it?
Well, two things can be true at once. While politics is politics, it also can be quite personal. And I think you heard that in the way Don Davies.
I mean, I don't think it's certain that Alberta's gone. I support that, but it's definitely it's still a long road for sure. TDS and running to China may win Liberal votes in Canada, but it seems to be counterintuitive. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Davies was talking about it because it feels often like a betrayal. You go into these campaigns, you stand with a party, you support a leader and a platform, she's switching levels of government, so that can sometimes be a bit more nuanced for voters, and they may not hold her to account for that. But the general sense of the feeling is that sense of betrayal, and that you stood for something in the morning and then you stood for something in the afternoon. But I would imagine it's a mix of things. Of course, there's personal ambition, there's an opportunity. There's been a lot of talk online about the Liberals offering her cabinet. That would be illegal. You can't induce. You can
What do you
hint.
mean, Joel Jivani move? Because he's going to Washington, right? Do you mean movie? Or what does maple syrup come from? What do you mean? Like the actual syrup, or like the maple syrup MAGA thing?
I suppose, but I suspect that's not what's going to happen. But who knows? And yeah, it's just that sense of like, when you go into the ballot box, a number of Canadian voters actually know the candidate. Not the most. Most know party leadership, or are voting on a particular set of issues that inspire them. And I think as people who are elected, you have to have a little humility in that. It ain't just you. It's the package you bring. It's the party you're running with that got you elected. And
yeah, hopefully that helps. He's going to get, it'll be interesting to see what he says.
Sometimes that humility can be lost.
So Priya, when you look at so far the defections and the poaching efforts have been broadly about the Liberals reaching out to Conservatives, though Laurie Idlout was close to having a sit down with the Prime Minister before Christmas. This is a move to protect the left flank to some degree, maybe. How do you view this a reach out to the NDP MPP for Scarborough?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine this was completely out of the blue, right?
No.
There must have been some sort of interest expressed along the way at some point for it to have then gotten back to either somebody at, the Liberal Party or within the center to sort of have those discussions. And I think, to Don Davies's point about this being a betrayal, I mean, the other side to that is that the Liberal Party is a big tent. And for all of the criticism that the Prime Minister has been getting, I mean, yours truly included, about running more to the right and perhaps leaving out some of his progressive left flank, I think this is an incredibly good get for the Prime Minister and the Liberal Party. Dolly's a solid representative for Scarborough, and she'll be great in her role as a federal MP. And I don't want to take away from that being the substance of the story, but you kind of alluded to this in your lead up. I think the more prominent undercurrent here is what this has for the implications in Ontario politics, right? Both for Merritt Stiles and the NDP in Ontario, as well as the Liberal leadership race, than it does like rocking the federal landscape all that much. Because we've got some real now momentum in the Ontario Liberal leadership race with Nate Erskine-Smith saying he's running for leader and he's going to run in that Scarborough Southwest by-election. So let's see who else decides to throw their hat in the ring now.
Yeah, Lisa, right. It's one door opens, another door closes, and there's a big revolving door seemingly going on with all of these changes.
Yeah.
What do you make of this move? And it signals this will be, with Nate Erskine-Smith, the third pretty high-profile departure in a short period of time from the federal Liberals.
Did he say when he's going to be
going?
going?
It's when the nomination.
Explain to you.
Okay, Joel, here we go. We'll watch this. Jivani put this out on Twitter. On my way to Washington, D.C. I think Jivani's my favorite politician, like at a federal level. He is. I would, like, I'm not going to say I follow him all the time, but at a federal level, he's the person that puts out the stuff that I consistently, for the most part, agree with.
I'm on my way to Washington, D.C., and I want to explain to you, the Canadian people, exactly why.
Yeah, Joel, I saw do you know if Carney and Poilievre are going to be speaking? I tried to find that. It basically said probably, but I'll watch that. I'll do the question period. That'll be good.
Because you're probably going to hear about it. I'm going to Washington because I want to help Prime Minister Mark.
See you, William. Have a good day, bro.
Carney be successful in negotiating a trade deal with the United States. Now that might sound counterintuitive because I am a principled conservative. He is our Liberal Prime Minister. But the reality is that this is not a partisan issue. CUSMA and trade with the United States is so important to the Canadian economy and to our future as an independent, self-reliant nation that conservatives and liberals don't need to fight over this at all. In fact, we need to work together. The leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, has said as much. He has offered help from conservatives to the Liberal government on this issue, and I'm acting on that. In my opinion, this is not about posturing or politics. This is about business and workers. This is about unions and entrepreneurs. This is about whether we have a growing economy with stability for investment and opportunity for our young people, or whether our economy is perpetually in a state of uncertainty. I'm kind of sick and tired of the politics on this issue. I'm sick and tired of the posturing and
Yeah, PBE, you're right. We will see. We will see what happens for sure. I think Alberta independence has a great chance. I think it's logical.
the virtue signaling. I'm sick and tired of people being worried about what someone's going to call you on Facebook or on social media comments, what the media might say. The reality is that there are people suffering right now in our country because of the state of our economy. And in as much as we want Canada to be as strong and independent as possible, the reality is that 3/4 of our exports go to the United States. And if we want an economy that is good for our young people, if we want an economy that supports public services for seniors in our communities, we've got to work with the Americans. There are people who've been running around this country for over a year now, talking about their elbows, flapping about. I just don't find that impressive. I don't find it serious. I take this issue seriously. And as a guy who went to law school in the United States and has a strong network there, I think I have something to offer to help build bridges of communication between our two countries. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm alarmed when I see things like the talking about China and communist governments and doing more business with them. I get alarmed when I see announcements of electric vehicles now being imported into Canada while we have a crisis in our auto industry. I get alarmed in my home community when I see museums in Oshawa, like the Tank Museum or the Auto Museum, offering free admission to GM employees to do everything they can to just stand in solidarity with people whose lives have been turned upside down because of the economic uncertainty, the tariffs, and the lack of a good trade relationship with our biggest trading partner. So yeah, I say this to you knowing what's about to come my way. I know what all the critics are going to say, and I know what all the frothing, elbow-waving, anti-American activists are about to say about me. But I just don't care. I care more about you. I care more about the Canadian people, the people who want a future in this country and know that we need serious leadership, the people who believe that you elect people to do what's right and to stand up for you and fight for you above any kind of partisanship. I took this job because I thought there was important work that needed to be done in our country. And I thought that on behalf of the great people of Bowmanville, Oshawa North, I would have a chance to do some great work. And that's my motivation. So no matter what you hear, no matter what they say, I just want you to hear directly from me. I think you deserve good leadership in this country. And I think you deserve people who are going to cut through all the noise, cut through all the posturing and the virtue signaling, and just try to deliver something good for you and your kids. And to me, that's what a trade deal with the United States promises. It promises more stability so that we can grow our economy and that our country can be strong and awesome and live up to its enormous potential. And I think that's what we all want. And that's why I'm going to Washington, D.C. Thanks for listening.
Pretty good. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just incredible that the Liberals will talk to Americans and they won't even apologize for it at all. But the Conservatives always have to say something like that. I don't really get that. Like Hillary Clinton is coming to Canada. And the Liberals probably won't put out some big, oh, we're doing this because of this. Let's see what else we can find here.
I sincerely hope that mine is just...
That's Jamil Jivani. He's an MP. He's not running for anything. He's just going to America to try to help out with trade. He's friends with J.D. Vance.
I sincerely hope that mine is just one of many portraits of prime ministers from both parties that will continue to be hung here for decades and centuries to come. But that will require that in these perilous times, both parties, whatever their other differences, come together against external forces that threaten our independence and against domestic policies that threaten our unity. We must preserve Canada, this country handed down to us by Providence, preserved by our ancestors and held in trust for our descendants. We must make any sacrifice necessary to preserve the independence and the unity of this blessed land.
Stephen Harper has never been drawn to spectacle, but always to service. He served as Prime Minister of Canada for nearly a decade, the 6th longest tenure in our history, leaving an extensive record of policy and legislative accomplishments. In a political climate increasingly buffeted by noise, he brought composure, intellect, and decisiveness to public life. Stephen, your portrait will soon take its place alongside those of Macdonald and Laurier, King and Diefenbaker, Trudeau and Mulroney.
Hello.
Builders of our country in the past, examples.
Hello, Tal.
To our country for our future.
MP Jamil Jivani will be in Washington this week to help, in his words, the Prime Minister be successful in negotiating a trade deal with the United States.
USMA and trade with the United States is so important to the Canadian economy and to our future as an independent, self-reliant nation that Conservatives and Liberals don't need to fight over this at all. In fact, we need to work together.
Jivani is a longtime friend of Vice President J.D. Vance. He says that while Canadians want to be as strong and independent as possible, the reality is that 3/4 of our exports go to the U.S. and that we need to work with the Americans. Now, the Prime Minister was asked whether he endorsed Jivani's trip to Washington.
We have extensive contacts with the U.S. administration, constant contacts with the U.S. administration. Mr. LeBlanc gave a briefing to Mr. Jivani, who I don't believe is the trade critic for the opposition, certainly not the Minister of International Trade or the Prime Minister.
Conservative MP Jamil.
Yeah, I don't know. We will see what happens. Obviously, Carney's team is not doing a very good job on helping that relationship with America. I think that's pretty clear, which is not great.
Their leader, the Liberals, are saying goodbye to a longtime member of Parliament and former cabinet minister. The Prime Minister has officially appointed former cabinet minister Bill Blair as Canada's next High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. Blair's appointment and resignation as MP means there will be yet another by-election this year. There will also be one in Chrystia Freeland's old riding. And the Prime Minister has appointed longtime public servant Nathalie Drouin as Canada's next ambassador to France and Monaco. Not a bad appointment. Both her appointment and Blair's will take effect this spring. And I don't say that to make light of the United Kingdom appointment, Vandana, but what do you make of this? Bill Blair leaving. I mean, this has been known for months. But, you pick up Michael Ma, you pick up Chris D'Entremont, and suddenly there goes Chrystia Freeland, there goes Bill Blair. The math in Parliament is back to where it was. What do you make of the risks they're taking with two by-elections coming up?
I think it's a risk they're willing to take. I think, Mr. Blair has a lot to offer. I've worked with him quite closely. I think it makes sense that he has an appointment of sort, especially to a close ally of ours in the UK. I think that Prime Minister Carney feels very confident with his chances. I don't think he thinks in terms of, I will move this because I have the best chances now at the election. I think it was just time to move Mr. Blair off and to formally appoint him. Again, as you mentioned, this was something that was known in Ottawa bubble and circles for a while, so it's about time to share that. But I think he feels very confident in terms of how he'll do well on by-elections. I think by-elections do well for the government overall. They with a.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, Tal.
bit of a year, less than a year in. I think people still
I like your little picture here, the monkey is wearing the suit.
feel very strongly about Prime Minister Carney, and with the right candidates, I think he'll have a very successful few by-elections he has.
Yeah, Brad, I don't know if anyone's too worried about the Scarborough seat and the University Rosedale seat flipping necessarily on the Liberals with the way things are right now, but there's a lot of days and maybe votes from here to there, right? So now maybe the new era of Conservative cooperation, as they've described it, means it's not a problem. How do you view it?
Yeah, well, the Levine decision desk has already called those as holds, as we said a few weeks ago, when we were speculating that this day would come, and sure enough, Monday came, and this has been known for a long time. I don't believe that despite when we watched the behavior of the Conservatives in the budget vote behind the curtains, it sent a signal that we can't ignore, and that is they're not hungry for an election right now. Now we've got Poilievre's got his convention behind him and his leadership vote behind him. I just don't think that the New Democratic Party or the Conservative Party want a federal election in the near term. I just don't see it. I think you'll see some strategic absences, some dentist appointments will be had during these motions of confidence, or the curtains could be quite busy again during the next one. I just don't think that the country's in the mood for it. It's only been 10, 11, not even 11 months since the last election, which would remind me that if these Liberals want to recycle themselves through all the nice cushy jobs, and somebody's got to be in London and somebody's got to be in Paris, so I get it. Could they not do so, further away from an election? We just had the election, and you got to wonder, did Mr. Blair and Ms. Freeland, know that these appointments were coming, ran anyways, and now we're forced into the by-election? I'll leave that to the viewers to decide. But nonetheless, it'd be nice if we had these appointments kind of in between the cycles instead of triggering these very expensive by-elections so shortly after a general.
Well, look, I think Bill Blair thought he was coming back into cabinet, and they do have to send someone to the UK because Ralph Goodale's done in a couple of weeks. But, the Brad Levine decision test, never wrong, just early, so we like to describe it. But Kate, what do you make of these moves? I'm with Brad. I think there's too much going on for there to be an election right now, and I'm still not over the last one. But what do you make of these particular moves at this particular time?
Yeah, I mean, somebody's got to fill those seats. They're safe seats, very likely.
Yeah.
Toronto voters are going to be busy because I think this is not the end of GTA area MPs pursuing new opportunities. Nathaniel Erskine-Smith. That might actually launch another by-election. Then you couple that with municipal elections in the fall, and things are going to be very busy, at least in the city. So yeah, I think expected safe holds, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily indicative of whether we will or won't have a spring election. I maintain the view that the Liberals are going to look very prudently or perhaps cravenly at what their chances of electoral success are before totally taking that off the table.
Well, Rob, this is a day where groundhogs predict weather, so we may as well speculate wildly what's going to happen with politicians. What's your sense of this? Because Nate Erskine-Smith, I'd forgotten about that. He's obviously getting ready to run for Bonnie Crombie's old job as Ontario Liberal leader. That's going to be a third seat at minimum, and who knows when the Wilkinson appointment is going to eventually happen.
I mean, we don't even say perhaps Mr. Wilkinson.
No, it's just we're just waiting for it to go, right?
Speculation.
Yeah.
The thing to look for is what date does Mr. Carney, Prime Minister Carney, decide that he's going to have all of these by-elections? He has up to 6 months, right? Mm-hmm. So does he have a long campaign date, leaving him flexibility to turn these by-elections into part of a general election?
Right.
Does he do that? That might be a hint as to how much flexibility he wants. And as to Brad, I'm surprised that he would forget. I don't forget, as somebody who grew up in that area, Scarborough Southwest, that the NDP won that riding in 2011. Dan Harris, I believe.
Of course.
Dan Harris. So
Saskatchewan. I just moved back from Alberta. I was in Alberta for about 3.5 years, but just moved back here. There
is some hope, I think, for New Democrats in that part of the world. And I remember as a kid, New Democrats being elected provincially there on a regular basis. It's a very kind of blue collar part of Toronto. But the thing to watch is the date. There's going to be a whole bunch of them. Matt Generou as well. I suspect he'll be part of that wave as well. Those by-elections. Does the Prime Minister give himself the flexibility to turn those into general elections as opposed to by-elections?
So Vanda, I just going to give you the last word on this. You know, I think Christopher Freeland's had 4 resignations in a year, but only once as an MP. Already Danielle Martin, a pretty...
Man, the thing about Canadian news is, like, if there's not something big happening, it's quite boring, to be totally honest.
Pretty well-known Canadian physician and doctor is the Liberal candidate there. We don't know what's going to happen with Bill Blair, Nate Erskine-Smith, Matt Generou, and a cast of thousands potentially to follow. Do you think the Prime Minister waits a long time?
Just that lately there's been a lot going on, so it's been fascinating. But if it's a slow news day, I mean, geez.
Does them all at once or staggers them out a little bit? How do you think it goes?
I think he does it all at once. I don't think it'll be too long a time. I think he knows that the air can shift, and I don't think he takes his popularity for granted. So I think the longer out, you can't predict what's going to happen in 6 months. So why not get them done sooner than later? I definitely think they're not looking at a general election right now. I don't think the Prime Minister wants to do that. I think he's focused on CUSMA negotiations. I think he's focused on governing. I think he enjoys governing, not that he didn't enjoy campaigning, but I think he really enjoys just getting it done. And I don't think he feels that he would have the correct argument to argue for an election. I don't think he'll take that for granted. So I think it'll be sooner than we think, and I think it'll happen all at once.
All right, there you go, Brad. Get that decision desk machinery fired up, buddy, because it's coming soon.
got it.
All right, we're out of time, and Brad's run out of time. We're going to have those by-elections. Vanda Decotter, Brad Levine, Rob Russo, and Kate Harrison, thank you so much. And joining me now is Steve Athouse, the Conservative campaign manager. Steve, it's good to see you, man. Good, thanks for being here. Obviously, well, a lot. You got a lot riding on this vote tonight too with Pierre Poilievre. What's your expectations of where things stand? It seems from everybody here, it's going to be a pretty high score.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what the final count is, but definitely it's been a very supportive room. I was connecting with a lot of people so far during the convention. There seems to be a lot of support from Mr. Poilievre, and we're really thankful for that.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's different. They're set, but then there can also be snap elections called. And like, I think if you looked it up, they would say something like it's called for a variety of factors, but it just seems like if the party in power gets a little bit of a bump in polls and they really think they can win an election, that's when they seem to get called. But the thing is, if you're a minority government in Canada, you don't have the power. I mean, I'm just going to look this up because I don't think it's that clear, but a lot of times what a minority government will do is as soon as they have favorable polls, how does a snap election? As soon as they have favorable polls, suddenly an election gets called. But okay, I asked ChatGPT. In Canada, snap election, an election called early in the fixed date, happens when the Prime Minister asks the Governor General to dissolve Parliament and the Governor General agrees. The Prime Minister decides to call an election, usually for political reasons. PM goes to the Governor General. Governor General grants dissolution. Writs are issued election day. So I guess, what about fixed election dates? Other way a snap election happens. Government fails. An early election can also be triggered if the government loses a confidence vote. Budget vote, throne speech. Then PM either resigns or asks the Governor General to dissolve Parliament election. This is common with minority governments. Can the Governor General ever refuse? Yes, in theory, but extremely rare. So this is actually less ambiguous than I thought. This is what I thought, but I thought it was a little bit more, I thought it was more convoluted than this. But yeah, I mean, it's just ChatGPT, so whatever. I guess maybe this is the one I was thinking of. But this rule is stupid. The American system is way better, where an election just gets called every 4 years. Like this system, in my opinion, is not very democratic because you can play the polls. That's not the point of voting. Like if in America, if they could do that, of course, the Democrats, if they're in power, they would just call it when they do well in polls. And if you ever look at polls, like everything in life, it's like a pendulum roller coaster. It goes up and down. So stupid. Oh my God. Cal, take a look at this. This is so stupid. Check this out. Montrealers protest ICE. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Trump immigration crackdown. For what? That's I think that street's called St. Lawrence, which there's always construction there. I'm like pretty sure that's St. Lawrence Street or St. Lawrence Avenue or whatever it's called. Yeah. I might not even get the name right. It might be something Saint, but
dozens gathered outside the U.S. consulates in downtown Montreal, and their message was clear. Democracy is what we need.
Carol, bringing the heat. Let's go. Yeah, it is crazy. It's crazy that the Liberals keep winning. I've lost a lot of hope in just the Conservatives' chances of ever winning again. I'm not even kidding. I'm in my 30s. I could see a situation where the Conservative Party of Canada doesn't win till I'm like 60. Or like I just feel it is going to go liberal, 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 liberal.
Demonstrators are protesting the actions of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE, and what they're calling an escalating violent crime.
Can a minority government call for a non-confidence election? I mean, this would kind of be like them collapsing themselves, but I don't know. I don't even know what that would. Can a minority? I mean, I just think logically it doesn't really make any sense, but it's kind of an interesting question. I'll ask. No, I guess it makes sense. It's a good question because, like, if a minority government knows it's unpopular, I guess that would be a case where maybe they would do that. Yeah, I can intentionally lose confidence. Oh, I don't know.
Down on civil rights south of the border. In recent weeks, ICE agents fatally shot 2 American citizens during protests in Minneapolis, sparking outrage and international concern.
Our goal is to stand in solidarity with Minnesotans and Americans all across the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's probably the same, except the difference, I think, in America is there's so much more pushback. There's the TDS pushback in Canada is pretty weak. There's obviously some people on YouTube and stuff online doing a good job, but man, if you go to Quebec or Ontario, there's a lot of Trump derangement syndrome that just goes constantly unchecked. Just people walking around being nuts.
Dozens gathered outside the U.S. consulates in downtown Montreal.
Dozens? Why is this a news story?
And their message was clear. Democracy is what we need. Demonstrators are protesting the actions of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE, and what they're calling an escalating violent crackdown on civil rights south of the border. In recent weeks, ICE agents fatally shot 2 American citizens during protests in Minneapolis, sparking outrage and international concern.
Our goal is to stand in solidarity with Minnesotans and Americans all across the U.S.
Yeah, but they would need support in this circumstance, and they like the Conservatives would not have that right now, probably. They could do that, but again, I'll just ask it to. There's a guy named JJ on YouTube, except for he doesn't really talk about politics all the time anymore. He is very smart about a lot of this stuff. yeah, see, like the government is a minority and loses support from another party. So, so the last time the Liberals were in, they had that deal with the NDP with like Jagmeet. I don't know what the current dynamic is, but I do not think it would work right now because the Liberal Party, it wouldn't the Liberal Party right now is not that unpopular, even though they are minority, but they're barely minority.
Case that we show up in such force and opposition to stay violence against humans.
Also joining the rally, Bob Titler, who holds a dual citizenship.
And if we don't pay attention to what's going on in the South, we may have it in our backyard as well. So it is a matter of concern.
Under the Trump administration, ICE has been given broader authority to carry out immigration enforcement operations.
Yeah, so people in Canada too, a lot of people are convinced that America is a worse place when all the economic data does not back that up. America has its own problems, but economically it's doing so much better than Canada.
For those here, they say what's happening in the US,
even though again it has problems, and I would say one thing, it seems like America has more general inflation than Canada. When I go down there, things seem very expensive in America. The homes and stuff here are very expensive, but like just going to buy a pair of shoes in America or a meal, I feel like it used to be quite a bit cheaper, but now when you go down there, it's quite expensive.
Extremely troubling. Jacob Osoki is the president of Democrats at McGill University. He says some Canadian companies are profiting from contracts linked to ICE, and he wants them to cut ties.
We're also here to call out and end Canadian complicity in these abuses.
Demonstrators say they will continue to speak out and mobilize until they see real change. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
Okay, I'm going to end the stream because I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to probably go live if Poilievre and Carney are actually in question period. Like if I go here, let's see this. What's this guy doing? Okay, so I think it is on maybe right now. Let's see. If I go to here, live event is now over.
Et qui est le bastion qui protège, comment dire, le monde libre face
Le
à la
monde
Chine.
libre.
C'est le premier arrêt d'une Chine impérialiste, potentiellement au niveau militaire. Donc, il y a un manque de jugement, il y a un manque de considération. On ne dit pas Chine ou Taïwan, on dit à l'intérieur de paramètres de sécurité et dans le respect de nos valeurs, Chine et Taïwan. Et j'attends du gouvernement qui
See, this is live in 18 minutes. Well, we'll see. I'll go live if I see that Poilievre and Carney are actually going to speak. Sometimes they do this, and then it's just the B team, and it's not very interesting. But anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Have a great day. Depends what state our dollars. Yeah, the dollar sucks. Exactly. Like when you go down to the States, you get a bad dollar, and the prices all seem the same. It used to be the prices in America seemed a little less. Like I definitely think the general inflation hit America pretty hard in the last, basically during Biden. Yeah. See you, Tal. See you, man. Cool. Okay. I'll end the stream now, but thank you, everyone. Have a great day.